In the high-stakes theater of modern warfare, the line between a physical strike and a digital intrusion has completely dissolved. June 2026, the Persian Gulf. An American EA-18G Growler operating at the edge of Iranian airspace suddenly finds its cockpit illuminated by flashing red warnings. A Russian-made S-300 surface-to-air missile battery deep within the Iranian coast has achieved a terminal radar lock. Seconds later, a pair of 48 N-6 interceptors leap from their vertical launch tubes, accelerating to a staggering Mach 6. To the untrained eye, this is a standard, deadly anti-air engagement. But in reality, it is a calculated trap. As the Growler executes a violent 9G break to evade the exploding warheads, its high-gain jamming pods do something far more sinister than merely blinding the enemy radar. At the exact microsecond of maximum data exchange, the Growler injects a highly concentrated malicious data packet directly into the S-300's command link. This is the deployment of America's newest classified asset, a next-generation cyber weapon designed not to destroy hardware, but to hijack the enemy's entire command architecture. Bypassing every military firewall within minutes, this digital ghost begins its silent march through the Iranian integrated air defense network. The target isn't the missile batteries on the coast. It is a facility buried deep underground hundreds of miles away. While the cyber weapon infiltrates the landlines, the United States Navy executes a massive tactical feint to keep Iranian commanders completely blind to the true nature of the attack. 150 miles to the south, the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln cuts through the water at 30 knots. On its flight deck, steam catapults fire in rapid succession, launching 4 F-35C, lightning 2 stealth fighters into the morning haze. These fifth-generation aircraft do not carry heavy ordnance. Instead, their internal bays are packed with ADM-160 miniature air-launched decoys, or MALDs. Once released, these sophisticated drones replicate the exact radar signatures of a massive American strategic strike package, including B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. To the Iranian command center in Tehran, their radar screens suddenly explode with dozens of incoming priority targets heading directly for the capital. Every radar system, every interceptor squadron, and every electronic warfare asset is rerouted to counter this phantom fleet. They are chasing digital ghosts. And while their eyes are fixed on the skies, the real weapon reaches its destination, the Natanz nuclear facility. Buried under 300 feet of reinforced concrete and solid granite, Natanz was built to withstand the U.S. Air Force's heaviest conventional bomb, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. But a cyber weapon doesn't need to punch through concrete, it travels through the wires. On the surface, the illusion shatters. The ADM-160 decoys run out of fuel and blink off the Iranian radar screens. Simultaneously, a 4.2 magnitude seismic shock waves rip through Isfahan province as the Natanz bunker suffers total internal collapse. A massive column of superheated fire bursts from the emergency vent shafts, shooting thousands of feet into the sky. To space-based American early warning satellites, this immense thermal signature perfectly mimics the detonation of a tactical nuclear weapon. Believing they have just suffered a decapitating nuclear first strike from the United States, the Iranian High Command activates their ultimate contingency dead hand protocol. The order is flashed to every coastal battery for total unrestricted retaliation against the carrier strike group. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Iran unleashes a synchronized volley of Khalij-Fars anti-ship ballistic missiles. These weapons fly an arc to the edge of space before tipping over into a terminal dive at Mach 4, directed toward the USS Abraham Lincoln. The carrier strike group's Aegis combat system springs to life. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS Nitze coordinates the defense opening its Mark 41 vertical launch systems. A wall of steel composed of SM-6 interceptors roars into the sky to challenge the incoming ballistic threats. The Aegis system performs flawlessly, prioritizing targets with the steepest dive angles and neutralizing the first 3 ballistic missiles at the edge of the atmosphere. However, the sheer volume of the saturation attack creates a mathematical certainty, a leak in the defense. The 4th Khalij-Fars missile survives the interceptor screen. Its terminal active radar seeker locks onto the massive hull of the USS Abraham Lincoln. As it plunges the carrier's last line of defense, the Mark 15 Phalanx CYWS screams to life, firing 20mm depleted uranium rounds at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute. The missile is shredded just 300 yards off the port beam, sending a colossal shockwave and hundreds of tons of seawater over the flight deck. But this ballistic volley was merely the opening salvo of a dual-domain saturation strategy. Destroyers are looking up at the sky. The true asymmetrical threat emerges from the jagged limestone coves of the Strait of Hormuz. The radar floor vanishes, replaced by 60 distinct high-speed surface returns. This is Iran's asymmetric swarm doctrine in full execution. 60 Zulfikar fast attack craft capable of speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour race across the choppy waters. Each vessel is modified into an uncrewed, remote-controlled surface vehicle packed with 600 pounds of specialized high explosives, essentially high-speed sea-skimming suicide drones. The swarm splits into 3 distinct wolf packs, surrounding the carrier strike group from the northeast and south. They present an incredibly difficult challenge for the strike group's defense. They are too small and low to the water for long-range SM-6 missiles and too numerous for standard naval gun systems to engage simultaneously. The USS Nitze maneuvers violently, its 5-inch Mark 45 main gun opening fire every 2 seconds. The 70-pound high-explosive shells vaporize the lead boats, but the remaining swarm continues to zigzag through the geysers of water, systematically overwhelming the destroyer's fire control radars by presenting more targets than the barrels can physically traverse. As the distance closes to less than 2,000 yards, the USS Abraham Lincoln's close-in weapon suites erupt. Mark 38 25mm Bushmaster chain guns and heavy machine gun teams on the catwalks lay down a continuous curtain of tracer fire targeting the hulls and engines of the oncoming boats. Yet the sheer density of the swarm allows 2 Zulfikar boats to penetrate the perimeter. One boat detonates close to the carrier's aft sponson, the immense blast buckling heavy steel plates near a refueling station. The second suicide craft strikes the USS Nitze dead center at 50 miles per hour. The explosion fails to sink the heavily armored destroyer, but the kinetic energy shears its port propeller shaft, causing the warship to lose speed and begin listing to port. The swarm senses the vulnerability and shifts its entire mass toward the crippled destroyer for a final execution. Then the battlefield changes instantly. A final hidden Iranian ballistic missile detonates 5 miles directly above the strike group. This was not a missed strike, it was a high-altitude detonation designed to generate a localized electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. The tactical fallout is immediate. The Phalanx CIWS mounts lose their automated radar locks and drop to manual control. The Aegis combat system, the electronic brain of the entire fleet, suffers an immediate power surge and forces a total system reboot. For the next 3 critical minutes, the USS Abraham Lincoln is a 1,000-foot-long blind giant. In the terrifying silence of this electronic blackout, a sonar operator on the crippled USS Nitze detects a sound that guarantees catastrophe, a high-pitched mechanical scream cutting through the thermal layers of the water. An Iranian Ghadir-class midget submarine, which had been sitting completely motionless on the muddy seafloor for 3 days, has found its opening. It fires the Hoot, a legendary rocket-powered supercavitating torpedo. By vaporizing the water in front of it to create a gas bubble, the Hoot eliminates skin friction drag, allowing it to travel underwater at an unbelievable 200 miles per hour. At this speed, conventional acoustic decoys are useless, and physical evasive maneuvers are mathematically impossible. 5 seconds to impact. The mechanical roar of the rocket motor can be heard through the carrier's bare hull plates. Then the digital ghost speaks one last time. The Hoot misses the USS Abraham Lincoln's hull by less than 3 feet, its powerful wake scrubbing the paint off the carrier's side before detonating harmlessly a mile away in the open ocean. Seeing their ultimate weapon fail, and noticing the American destroyers beginning to bring their backup automated systems back online, the remaining Iranian surface swarm breaks off the engagement, retreating into the coastal mist. The USS Abraham Lincoln and its damaged strike group immediately turn south, escaping the narrow confines of the Gulf into the deep waters of the Arabian Sea. Tactically, the operation was an unprecedented success. The Iranian nuclear infrastructure was completely neutralized without a single American bomb ever touching sovereign soil. But at the Pentagon, a chilling realization sets in. The cyber weapon worked too well. By creating a scenario where the enemy genuinely believed they were facing an imminent nuclear strike, the digital weapon forced an asymmetric escalation that almost triggered a global nuclear conflict. Furthermore, the survival of the USS Abraham Lincoln did not depend on its multi-billion-dollar armor or its advanced Aegis radar. It depended on a single hidden line of code in a cyber virus, a digital backdoor that could have easily failed. As the U.S. military increasingly relies on autonomous cyber warfare and artificial intelligence, this engagement exposes a terrifying truth. Once you unleash a digital ghost into the machine of war, you lose the ability to predict where it will stop, who it will kill, and whether you can ever bring it back. For Warfront Logic, thank you for watching.